I'd written poetry as a youngster at school, and when I was in prison I was able to reflect on my early efforts at being a poet, basically. I realized that they were the emotions of a young white South African male, and there was something inauthentic about them, so I felt. Moto ke moto kabato babang, which means in Sotho, a person is a person because of other people. By holding my mirror out of the window, I can see clear to the end of the passage. There's a person down there, a prisoner polishing a door handle. When I was in prison, my poetic voice was liberated, ironically, because I was in prison, so I felt that I was able to speak from the perspective of a minor victim of the broader oppression. In the mirror, I see him see my face in the mirror. I see the fingertips of his free hand bunched together as if to make an object the size of a badge, which travels up to his forehead, the place of an imaginary cap. I had a desperate need to write poetry, and particularly after the death of my first wife, while I was sitting in Pretoria maximum security prison, so it was a way of dealing with that bereavement. A lot of the poetry, also looking back, was expressing a yearning for a united South Africa. I wanted to, through the poetry, reach for a vision, for a belief in the possibility of some kind of non-racial, non-sexist unity. Particularly from 1996, my commitments within the South African Communist Party, because I wasn't yet in Parliament, I was working full-time in the South African Communist Party, and the growing debates within the movement around not just macroeconomic policy, but leadership issues as well, and styles of leadership issue. So some of the poems that I wrote were also deeply admiring, which I am and remain, but also critical, with an edge of criticism of the persona of Madiba. You know, it was being elevated Hollywood style into this perfect saint, something that he denied being himself. So that was an important lesson for me in terms of the issue of leadership. You know, without an ANC, I think South Africa would still be in a Syrian kind of situation. The multicultural, multi-ethnic nature of South Africa, plus the huge inequalities and so on. I mean, we have all the raw elements for persisting civil war and dysfunctionality. The ANC, this broad church organization with a deep history and a wonderful and honorable resistance legacy, you know, and on top of that, Madiba, were absolutely critical for the complicated but very important democratic transition that we undertook in the early 1990s. So I respected all of that, but I also had a healthy dose of skepticism and realism. I'm not a critic of the Codexa negotiations, but perhaps because I was active in it. They were only very tangentially about economic issues. What the regime was trying to achieve was a settlement in which a constitution would be established through an elite pact. What we're now belatedly referring to as a radical phase of the National Democratic Revolution. That radical phase should have begun in 1994 on the back of the democratic breakthrough. The over-sanctification of great leaders of the past. It's important to remember them and to really celebrate their contributions and so on. But when one erects them into, you know, these huge, impeccable giants, it's actually very demobilizing in the present, because you can only fall short of those standards.